first of all, could you just introduce yourself and sort of tell people a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Hi, I'm George. I'm autistic and an expert by experience. I also have ADHD combined presentation and mental health conditions. My pronouns are she, they. Um, and I'm currently doing a master's in psychology.
Awesome. Um, and the topic of today is basically around like being neurodivergent over Christmas.
Okay.
Obviously, you have personal experience with that and you have expertise sort of surrounding that subject.
Yes.
So first of all, could you just talk about what is like a typical Christmas for you?
Um, Personally, I need to take a lot of breaks around Christmas. There is a lot going on. Um, there's a lot of pressure and expectations in terms of to act a certain way, which I don't like. I do enjoy spending time with my family as the we're all neurodivergent, every one of us, as in my mum, my dad, and my two brothers. That kind of makes it easier. I think if I was in a neurotypical family, or I had to see my outside family, so I don't know what you'd call them,
Like
you know, my
extended
not
family?
yes, extended family. That's it. If I had to see my extended family, it would be much more difficult. Um, I have we used. I mean, we're not doing it this year because there's a wedding instead, but usually we go to one of my uncle's house and have like a Christmas, but it's just one day, thankfully. And I take a lot of breaks and I'm constantly moving around. And actually, so are apart from my mum, so are my other immediate family. Um, I don't like presents unless I've requested them specifically, because I don't like having to pretend that I like something. It's really stressful. I also prefer to open my presents alone somewhere else on a different day, just because I don't like the pressure of like, you have to open it on this day. I tend to not like wrapping paper. It's a lot of sensory. I don't know. Yeah, it's just sensory. There's a lot of like mess and chaos with the wrapping
Mm,
paper. I also don't like it on an environmental level.
yeah.
Um, I think it's better just to put stuff in like a bag and then give it to someone, and that way also you can kind of see it, and then go, okay, I'm gonna open this another day, or oh, actually I could open that now.
Right.
Um,
So what kind of thing would lead you to want to open it on another day rather than that day?
most if I'm gonna be honest, I would most of my presents I'd rather open on another day and not that day. I think it's mainly to do with like, I've got a PDA profile of autism, so I think it's mainly to do with the demands and expectations and pressure of like, you have to like it, you have to have a very specific reaction to it,
Mhm.
um, and the whole being perceived and looked at, um, as well, is that's a lot of stress for me, and I'd rather just open it alone. Um, and when I kind of just surprise myself, okay, let's just open it, or something like that.
Mhm. And do you ever do you ever get people who don't really understand, like they want you to open it in front of them, um, and they're sort of less willing to adapt?
Um, Sometimes in my like extended family, when we have that day, Christmas Day, and sometimes I think when I was younger, because my family, they weren't that well, we were aware my dad was ADHD, my brother had ADHD, but we weren't aware of the other neurodivergences in the family until, well, till I was diagnosed actually. Um, but sometimes then as well, my family were quite my mum anyway wanted to like be like not be neurotypical, but like would put like the expectations on because um she didn't realize her neurotype or that of mine. She knew my brother and my dad had ADHD. But I think it's easier when other people are opening their presents. Then I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, cool, because then they're not looking at me. So the only time I like I'm like, okay, I'll do it, even though I'd rather not. And so I kind of have to is when I'm with my extended family or when I was younger.
Right.
And that the only reason why I was able to cope with that was because other people were opening it at the same time. So my brothers would
Mm.
open their presents, and then as I've gotten older with the extended family, it is usually like my mum, my dad, my nan, me, and my brothers are all opening presents at the same time. I still would rather not because it's still like that pressure to perform and uh be like all happy about something even if you haven't asked for it.
Yeah.
um but it's a little bit less of an issue. But usually if I really don't, I will disappear. I disappear a lot at Christmas. I do it at any family events or
Right.
any kind of social events. I disappear a lot. Like either it's because I'm getting too hot, so I have to leave, or sensory wise, it's too much, or the socializing is exhausting me and I just need some time to like stim and
Mhm.
be alone. So yeah, so sometimes I have just disappeared in that instance.
Absolutely. For me, my family tradition is always to open it like one at a time in a
Oh
circle when
no.
everybody's looking. So yeah, I definitely understand like some of that pressure.
Yeah.
It's always interesting when new people sort of come into the sort of Christmas traditions of my family, and they
Yeah.
always get a bit of a shock of like, I now have to sort of open these like one at a time in a sort of rotation in front of everyone.
Oh,
So
that sounds
yeah,
really stressful.
I can definitely relate to that pressure.
Yeah.
Um, can you think of ways that Christmas might affect neurodivergent people who are like obviously like other than yourself, just sort of
Yeah.
in general?
So in general, so like, I mean, I would say like, so it's different for everyone because obviously everyone's like unique and an individual because some autistic people wouldn't even, I know like quite a lot of kids that you can't wrap presents up. You can't give them all at once, and you can't even Christmas decorations are a bit too much. Um, so that's for autistic people, but then you've got other people as well who are neurodivergent, like ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette's, etc., etc. I guess. Sorry, what was the question again? I've forgotten.
Oh, so basically, like, how is Christmas different for neurodivergent people, like in general?
Okay, in general, I would say it's sensory wise is one of the main things, and the fact there's a lot of change, so you're not in your normal routine, you're not in your I mean for an ADHD that can actually be quite exciting,
Mm.
um, and also some for some other neurodivergent people as well, but I think in general it's a lot more overwhelming
Mhm.
and exhausting. I mean, I find this at any holidays, but you have to basically have a holiday after the holiday because it's just so exhausting because you've got all these events you're expected to go to um, and ways you're meant to act. And because there's usually like extended family or other people that aren't usually in the immediate family and so maybe don't know just how neurodivergent you are then
Mhm.
expected to put on like that mask. So then it becomes even more exhausting, even though it was already exhausting before that because of all the stuff that's going on and the sensory aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah. Out of curiosity, how do you approach giving presents? Is that
I
something that you ever struggle with?
yeah, I don't do it unless that someone specifically asks me. And I've said this to my family. I said, one, I out of my family, I'm probably on the lowest income. So
Right.
I have like the least amount of uh was it expendable money, like just money that I can just
Yeah.
that I
Expendable
don't,
income.
sorry.
Like expendable income.
Yeah, spendable income. Yeah, I don't really have money that I can just spend on anything. It needs to be like kind of my bills and stuff. So
Mhm.
if someone hasn't specifically requested it, and I say this every year, if you haven't requested it, I won't get it for you. I did when I was younger once, and this it was actually really enjoyable. I was working, but I was like 14, 15, so I didn't have to spend on any like food or bills or anything. And so I put a lot of thought and care into presents for my mum, my dad's, and my two brothers. But it was exhausting and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. But I probably won't ever do that again, because it was so exhausting. And at that time, I didn't really have anything else to worry about. Like I wasn't an adult, I was a teenager, obviously going through puberty, so that's much more difficult. But I didn't have to worry about other stuff. And my parents were quite fine with me just disappearing into my room, which I did anyway, day to day. But then I also did it at Christmas as well. And they weren't like, no, come down. We all need to be together as a family.
Mhm.
Um, it was quite like relaxed, like, okay, well, we've opened presents now, or we've had our Christmas dinner. So do what you want to do.
That's good. That's really nice. Because I guess Christmas is a lot more about what it's supposed to be a lot more about sort of having the break that you want to have rather than having the break that everybody else wants you to have.
Yeah. I for 3 years I escaped to another country
Which
for
country?
Christmas, and I went to Holland. So twice, me and my partner went to Amsterdam, and then
I
the
went there
last time
this
we,
year.
pardon?
I went there this year for
Oh,
the
did
first time.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last time was Rotterdam, and if I could afford it, I'd be doing it again.
Mm,
um,
mm.
but then it does mean that so we escape the like actual Christmas time and like the expectations, because we're just away and we have like the Christmas dinner, but that's about it. We don't get presents or anything. The present is our holiday. Like that is the present.
Yeah.
um and but then we still have to come back and maybe have like a meal with like his family, and my family are a bit like, they don't really care, so I don't really have to like it's not like they don't care, but it's like they don't put any pressure or expectations. They're just like, okay, well, we'll see you when we see you.
Yeah. Okay. Um, and what's Holland like around Christmas time, by the way?
It's really pretty, especially Amsterdam. Rotterdam wasn't as pretty. There is something that I found out while I think I was there on the third time, was they've got like this racist thing. Um,
Oh, the blackface thing, is it?
yeah, where kids will dress
Yeah.
up and stuff. And I thankfully I didn't see any of it, because my dad's mixed race, so I'm mixed race, but I'm white appearing. My
Mm,
nan's from Jamaica, so I'm quite, I don't know, quite reactive
yeah.
to racist things. And I will call it out, casual racism, any racism, I'll call it out. Um,
Mm,
and so thankfully I didn't see any of that. And I think that's kind of what afterwards I kind of was like, okay, I don't think I'll be going back to, I'd visit Amsterdam again, but I don't think I'm going to go back for Christmas, because I don't want to risk me seeing it. I think it's done in November anyway, but I don't want to risk seeing it and then me having like a meltdown in another country. Um,
yeah.
yeah. But other than that, it's pretty. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, um, so you spoke a little bit about the kind of you need a holiday after the holiday thing, which I think a lot of people can relate to a lot. Maybe even some like neurotypical people.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, how do you like to sort of decompress during that time? What do those days look like for you?
So as in after or in between?
Yeah, like sort of after Christmas, where you're able to kind of decompress from all the like the chaos and all
Yeah.
the expectations.
So I've got an eating disorder. So Christmas in itself is quite triggering. So January I usually like get quite low, which I
Mhm.
think is quite common for most people, even people that aren't neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And so January is quite, I don't know, I feel quite vulnerable. Um, I get very emotional. I think it's from like the roller coaster of Christmas, and then it's just kind of nothing. And my body and brain are just like, I don't know, like what to do. Like,
Yeah.
um, so what I usually do is I engage in my interests, so my monotropic interests, my special interests. I do that during as well Christmas. Like I often info dump about my special interests while I'm with family, so they get a nicer a lot of info dumping from me, and thankfully my family are quite happy to listen to me talk about the same thing over and over again. Thankfully, very lucky in that situation. um, so I engage more in my special interests, and I try and make myself rest, because otherwise it often leads, if I keep going, which my ADHD quite often likes to do. It's like, right, keep going, keep going, keep going, because it's exciting, and I'm not bored, but then I get overstimulated and then I burn out. um, and so I try to spend a lot of time in nature, engage even more in my special interests, read a lot. Well, I like reading in general, but it's even better if it's about my special interests. And yeah, take time. So I'll try and not work um for a couple of weeks. Yeah, and just take time to basically be alone in my home, not be around people.
Yeah. Just a little bit of you time,
Yeah,
basically.
basically, yeah.
And what are your special interests, by the way?
Autism and
Right.
neurodivergence is my special, my I guess main one.
That's
Psychology.
awesome.
Psychology is another.
Mm.
So autism and ADHD, but mainly autism, and then so it's autism, then it's ADHD, and then it's like neurodivergence, and then it's also psychology. But it's psychology not of the general population. It's psychology of um, neurodivergent people, so people with mental health conditions or like autism, ADHD, etc., all the other neurodivergences. And then I'm quite interested in like social politics. So
Mm.
anything like uh, to do with like anti-racism,
Yeah.
uh, getting rid of fat phobia, ableism, uh, sexism, transphobia, all of those things. And then I have like my same shows. So I watch RuPaul,
I've
Big
watched a lot
Bang
of RuPaul.
Theory. I love RuPaul. Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
And
I'm
Big Bang
obsessed.
Theory too, actually. I've watched all of Big Bang Theory.
So I watch it over and over again, and Friends. And
Yeah.
I don't know how I don't know it all off by heart. I know some of it off by heart, but I watch it again and again. And then Doctor Who when I can, because
Oh, I love Doctor Who.
I love
I've
Doctor
literally
Who.
all the shows you've just listed, I've literally watched them.
Yeah, again and
Great
again. Yeah,
list of shows.
literally love them. I wanted to get DVDs of Doctor Who, because you can't watch it because well, I can't watch it because I don't have a TV license, and that's illegal to watch it,
Oh,
so I won't do that.
yeah.
So I want to get the DVD so then I can start watching that. So I'm not just watching, because at the moment I've got Netflix, so I'm just watching Friends and The Big Bang Theory,
Mm.
and some of RuPaul, because I have the, Wow Presents Plus, their RuPaul. Um, yeah, it's like a Netflix, but it's only online. And so I pay for that, but for this month I've stopped it because of all Christmas stuff. I can't really afford to pay for that. But
Yeah.
that's good because that has all the new shows on, because it's not anywhere else apart from maybe sometimes BBC if they do that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that stuff. Yeah.
Mm. Awesome. Yeah. And
Oh, and I
I
like
agree.
collecting plants and silver jewelry as well.
Cool. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see you're wearing quite a lot of it.
Yeah, I wear
Um,
loads, and then I've got like plants everywhere. Oh,
mm.
behind
You've
me
got
there.
yeah, cool jewelry.
Thank you.
And I guess my final question is, do you have sort of any more thoughts or opinions about this topic?
Um, well, yeah, I think I posted something recently on my social media about how, oh no, actually, I don't know if I think I posted it yet, but I'm gonna post it about how you have, I think people have to be really kind to the people around them around this time because, um, like you don't, first of all, you don't know what anyone's going through. So you don't know like whether they've got like specific trauma to do with around Christmas, because there is a lot of, like, I know a lot of people with complex PTSD and PTSD who have a lot of flashbacks around this time because they're of events,
Yeah.
traumatic events. Then you've got the, I feel like to a certain extent, Christmas can be a bit traumatic for people who are neurodivergent, i.e., people that aren't maybe responding the way they're meant to respond, or
Mhm.
maybe they can't, they maybe have an eating disorder, maybe they've got alcoholism, problems with
Mhm.
substance misuse. And I feel like it all comes to a head because also there's a lot of family challenges as well around that, especially if you're coming from a family that isn't neurodivergent, or they are but they don't realize, and so they keep putting on like these expectations. And I think it's just people should be aware that it can really be a lot for people who are neurodivergent to process, and that uh like you shouldn't be expecting anyone, whether you know or not they're neurodivergent, and expecting anyone to act a certain way. If you're going to give a present, give it because you like, you're being kind and you want to, not because you're expecting a response, or
Mhm.
you're expecting gratitude. Don't give it then if that's what you expect. That's what I think. Yeah, I think it just, yeah, just, I think people should just be a bit, I don't know, a bit more aware of the sensory environment and the fact that everyone's different. And so, don't, because then I think it upsets the person themselves as well. It makes them struggle more because they're expecting loads of different things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's a really good analysis, to be honest. Um, Thank you very much for this interview, Georgia. It's been
Thank you.
very, very insightful.
Thank you.